What's going on, everybody? The Bitcoin miners for the most part today are doing fantastic. Bitcoin's somewhat flat, cryptos are somewhat flat. However, the miners today are doing pretty good. We're going to take a look at CleanSpark, what it's doing, where I think it's going to go over the coming weeks. And we're also going to look at this recent Bitcoin news. MicroStrategy acquired more Bitcoin. The Spot Bitcoin ETF coming from Australia went live. And Bernstein has a $200,000 Bitcoin price target. Let's get into this, guys. If you get something useful out of this, make sure you like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. And first off, let's look at what Bitcoin's doing today. Now, looking at Bitcoin, I do think it's going to follow this general direction. This is the direction it's been going in, at least. These two yellow lines, just a general sideways action with a little bit of slope downwards. We really need to break this descending resistance. Right now, we're under our purple line here, this ascending support. We have been under it before. So we'll see what happens here. It doesn't look like the market's necessarily reacting to the fact it's over it or under it. We are now under our 50 MA again, and our 200 MA that we haven't touched in quite a long time since this whole bull market. Our 200 MA is sitting right around 57,500. And I mentioned the 200 MA and how we might come back down to it because we did do this last cycle. Funny enough, it was towards the end of last cycle where Bitcoin went down to the 200 MA, went under it briefly, and then went on to rally, barely create new all-time highs from there. Are we going to see something similar, where towards the very end of the cycle we break the 200 MA? I personally think it's going to play out different than 2020. If it's anything like the 2016 halving cycle, breaking the 200 MA would be a huge sign that the bull market is long over. Do I think we're going to break our 200 MA, come down under 57,500? I don't think so. Just keep in mind, you know, that last cycle we did break the 200 MA to then regain and create new all-time highs. I don't think we're going to repeat the 2020 halving cycle, but just remember that, you know, if we break the 200 MA, if we maintain the 200 MA, it hasn't always been a solid indicator of time to leave, time to get in. One thing I am watching, well, first off, I've told you guys on the monthly, Bitcoin always gets to a 90 on the RSI. We are nowhere near there yet. We are nowhere near the peak of the bull market. But besides looking for 90 on the RSI on the monthly, another thing I'm looking for on Bitcoin on the monthly is if we're going to break this general uptrend. This is kind of like that purple line on the daily. It's adjusted a little bit, but basically last cycle, you know, we broke this pattern and we did see a big reaction. Look at that candle. It could have been a combination of the news at time, a combination of what's going on, and the fact that we broke this trend. Market reacted to the break of the trend. So, you know, we need to see this maintain. If we do see this break, we might see a big reaction from it. But do I think Bitcoin has peaked? No, not at all. Continuing on, Australia's largest exchange just went live with their Spot Bitcoin ETF. But keep in mind, you know, this isn't the first Spot Bitcoin ETF live in Australia. There is an ETF live right now from Monochrome Asset Management, and this is on the CBOE exchange, a smaller exchange in Australia. But now basically their two major exchanges both offer Spot Bitcoin ETF products. And according to the Australian Financial Review, together these two ETFs signal a Bitcoin ETF wave arriving in Australia. There is more to come. And we have MicroStrategy announcing that they acquired another 11,000 Bitcoin, nearly 12,000 Bitcoin, to the tune of $786 million. And you guys remember this, we went over this, the $800 million convertible note offering. It was going to be normally $500 million, then they raised it to $700 million, and it finally closed at $800 million. And you guys remember Similar Scientific, they announced that they're adding Bitcoin to their treasury. Well, that company went up by more than 60% since they disclosed that information in late May. This might be a new theme. We might see more and more companies announcing adding Bitcoin to their treasury because they know that it might pump their stock price. This would be a fantastic trend to watch if it does start playing out. And we have news that Bernstein predicts the Spot Bitcoin ETFs are near approval at major wirehouses, and for that reason gives a $200,000 target by 2025 year-end. And Bitcoin ETFs are on the cusp of approval at major wirehouses, large private bank platforms, and these Bernstein analysts agree that the 13F filings reveal that institutional share in Spot Bitcoin ETF participation was just 22%. Rising liquidity in CME Bitcoin futures contracts post-ETF launch was evidence of the basis trade. What bears are missing is that these Spot Bitcoin ETFs are on the cusp of approval at major wirehouses, large private bank platforms in Q3 or Q4 of this year. And while recently among the Spot Bitcoin ETFs we have been seeing outflows, Bernstein analysts say they expect Bitcoin ETFs inflows again to accelerate in Q3, Q4. The current choppy markets are providing new entry levels before the next leg of institutional demand picks up. Tactically, low to mid 60s, high 50s, if we do get there, should be interesting entry points. $60,000 is the new $10,000 for Bitcoin. And Bitcoin in the $60,000 range is the equivalent of being at $10,000 in 2020. Are they trying to say that Bitcoin is about to do a roughly 6x from here. Maybe that's what they're saying. And I mean, hey, look at what's really happening. Yes, we saw some outflows from the spot Bitcoin ETFs, but what have we seen overall? Massive inflows. IBIT, this wasn't even a thing before January, and now it has $20 billion of assets under management. Same with FBTC, they're over $10 billion in assets under management now. ARK has nearly $3 billion. And while GBTC has seen outflows, these others have more than made up for it. So despite overall seeing outflows this week so far, you know, since the ETFs went live, we have seen massive inflows. We are going to continue to see inflows overall. And perhaps by the end of this year, someone like IBIT has 35 billion in assets under management. Maybe Grayscale's another 5 billion from here. Maybe FBTC has 15 billion in assets under management. You know, the thing is these are going to continue to add to the buying pressure for Bitcoin. We just got through the halving. There's only 450 Bitcoin being produced per day, and the supply shock is coming. I know I didn't show you guys this, but we are at something like a 3-year low in terms of Bitcoin on exchanges. Things are playing out like they always do. Now looking at CleanSpark, it does look like the market is reacting to this breakout of this trend. We are heading towards 21. If we can break $21, I do think CleanSpark's going to work its way to 24. To me, it's really a matter of breaking that 21. If we find it as a resistance, we're probably going to end up back in this pattern again. So what I'm really watching for is for CleanSpark to break out of this 21. Like I've said before, I really don't expect this gap to fill. This was a breakaway gap. On great earnings, a great volume, these gaps are less likely to fill than a regular common gap. You know, I mean, it's always possible. Expect the unexpected, but I just don't see us filling this gap down here towards 10 to 12. I do believe many of these Bitcoin miners are about to take their next leg up. And consider this, you know, a day like this where Bitcoin's basically flat, a lot of these miners are doing fantastic. To me, that shows you that these miners have been taken too far down. It's a really good sign to see that there's interest in these miners when Bitcoin is actually down. I do think on the next decent Bitcoin day, we are going to see these miners absolutely pump. Many have beautiful setups for it. A stock like CleanSpark's only roughly 20% from its 52-week high. It wouldn't be surprising to see CleanSpark up at $25 within a month. All we need is a little positive Bitcoin momentum, and I do believe a lot of these miners will be breaking new 52-week highs, and this is still the time to be in the miners. This is still the time to be buying the Bitcoin miners. But as the cycle rages on, this time gets more and more limited. I do believe it's still time to jump on the Bitcoin miners. These are sort of the last chances in this cycle before the risk gets dramatically higher. But thanks as always for watching, guys. How are you feeling about the Bitcoin miners right now? Which ones are you specifically watching? Do you think Bitcoin can be $200,000 by the end of 2025? If I had to guess, I'd say we're going to top out somewhere around 150 to 200,000. And I'm personally not sure if we're going to see a $200,000 Bitcoin by the end of this cycle, but we will definitely see it one day. Thanks as always for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.